Number 4 is talent, which is very, very crucial for us. What is a reality check? We have challenges in our talent management. We have, of course, remuneration package is not attractive. Some of the things are really attitude issues. We have, attitudes among our people, competency issues, not up to the level. Sometimes mismatch in placement. He likes this area, but we place him somewhere else where he's not good at. Sometimes our exit policy is very ineffective. We can't remove people. Lack of leadership maybe in some areas. Our talent pools are quite shallow. We need to improve the slab effectiveness and so on and so forth. So these are lots of challenges. What we're going to do, as I mentioned just now, for talent, particularly for academics, we're going to have new
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good afternoon. Selamat petang, selamat sejahtera kepada semua yang hadir melalui online. Kita ada juga beberapa rakan-rakan saya yang berada di Dewan Tengku Canselor ni ya. Saya ingin mengucapkan selamat datang kepada mereka yang saya lihat di skrin saya ni. Sebahagian memang tak ada on video, but I can see some of your names. Ya. Terima kasih kerana meluangkan masa. Petang ini kita akan menghuraikan sebanyak boleh tentang KPI yang telah diedarkan kepada semua ahli akademik oleh pendaftar minggu lepas. Ya. Saya percaya semua telah mendapat salinan KPI yang telah diedarkan dan juga Excel yang juga telah diedarkan dalam email yang sama. Jadi masing-masing boleh mencuba dan to try out the marks and the pointer system in the Excel sheet that was given to you. Ya, okey. Seperti mana yang telah diwar-warkan, hari ini kita akan lihat bagaimana the pointer system akan diimplementasikan untuk KPI bagi tahun ini. Ya. Untuk memberi penjelasan sedikit bagaimana kita akan kendalikan town hall hari ini, saya akan mulakan dengan penerangan tentang teaching and learning, ya, dan seterusnya saya akan pas kepada Prof. Nur Saadah, Timbalan Naib Canselor Penyelidikan dan Inovasi untuk menghuraikan tentang research and publication dan juga services, ya. Dan seterusnya kita akan memberi ruang untuk Q&A. Okey, seperti mana yang boleh dilihat, bagi KPI tahun ini, kita telah membahagikan kepada research yang kita letak sebagai 50%, academic work and services 10%, teaching and services 40%. Ya. Jadi ini adalah default. So this is the default set for all academic staff. But it doesn't mean that you have to stick to these percentages only. So what's going to happen is, if you are comfortable with doing more research in this year, and because you have a grant, because you have, you know, a very active ongoing project, you might want to go beyond 50%. So you might want to go on to 60%, for example, and which means also that you will reduce the percentage that you will be spending on teaching and supervision. Okay, but well, this is open to you because this is the flexibility given. But then at the same time, you have to discuss it with your deans. You have to discuss it with your deans because the deans will have to look at the overall planning for the faculty, because the deans will have his or her own KPI to fulfill. Yeah, because there will be a certain number of publications that had been set for the faculty. So if the dean is okay with you going beyond the 50% for research, then he has to plan, so somebody else will have to take the teaching that you are foregoing. Okay, so that's basically how it's going to work. Okay, I only have this one slide for teaching and supervision. All right, so the Q&A will be later. Now I'm just going to explain what it means by the workload that you will have to take up for teaching and supervision. Okay, so the minimum credits that you will have to carry for this academic year is 9 credits. That's minimum. So this is really dependent on the faculty teaching that the faculty will have to do. If your dean feels that you will have to carry more than 9, then, you know, that's his prerogative to ask you to do that, and you will have to carry it out. But basically what this means is 1 credit is equivalent to 1 hour of lecture per week, which is also equivalent to 2 hours of tutorial per week, and 3 hours of lab work or studio work per week for 14 weeks. Okay, so basically, 1 credit will be worth 10 points. So if you carry 9 credits, then you will get 90 points for teaching. Okay? The other part that we will be assessing on is course design. If you remember, the one that we are currently implementing is just by looking at the borang-borang. Excuse me. Is that we're looking at the borang-borang, right? So we're trying to move away a bit from that one and to look at the teaching in terms of the quality that you put into the teaching. So one of the things that we will be looking at is the instructional materials. So what do we mean by the instructional materials? Well, the PTJ committee, the committee that will be appointed at the PTJ level, will be looking at the appropriateness of your teaching materials. All right, so for that particular course. And this can very easily be accessed through Spectrum. So the assessment will be looking at the teaching materials that you have to see whether the teaching materials that you prepare for the class actually meets with achieving the learning outcome. And it doesn't have to be the whole course file that the committee will be looking at. They'll be looking at some of the materials at random, okay? And secondly, we'll be looking at the assessment methods that you use. For example, we are currently looking at alternative assessments. We're looking at innovative assessments. And then we are also looking at the kind of exam questions that you set and whether the analysis is done on the exams that you set on the results, okay? So basically, what we mean by the course design in bullets number 1, 2, and 3 is the appropriateness of the teaching materials and the exam materials that you prepare for the course. And looking also at the vetting and the assessments that you do in preparing for the exams. The fourth point in the course design is to start the habit of self-reflection. Okay, so since this is the start, what we are doing is we're just going to see if people might be able to reflect on how they actually conducted the course for the semester. Okay, so there will be some sample questions that you may want to use to reflect on your own teaching and your own course materials. So as long as you do that, you already get 5 points automatically. Okay, there's no assessment, to speak of. There will be a committee, as I mentioned, as you can see in the right-hand cell, but the committee will only be looking at if you had actually done it or not. So, we just want to start off the habit of you looking at yourself and reflecting on what you had done for the semester. Okay, the next part about course design is professional development. Professional development means that we would like for people to attend courses in order to better themselves in teaching and learning. You can attend a course at EDAC, or you can attend a course, on some other platform. You don't necessarily have to just attend the courses provided by EDAC, but they have to be teaching and learning based kind of courses. For as long as you attend 2 hours worth and 2 courses, you will get your 5 points. Okay, so basically that's it. The idea behind this is that we would like for people to continually improve themselves. All right, so so that's number 2. Number 3 is the C-test. We have re-looked at the questions for C-test, and this semester we have started using the new version of the C-test, right? So the first part of the C-test, part A, actually gives the students an opportunity to look or to assess the course, the actual course, all right? About the course materials, about the course objectives, whether they think that they had achieved whatever it is that they had set out to learn. Okay? The second part of the C-test is on the teaching delivery. So this is in a way that we might be able to triangulate, what we had set out to do in the course design. So we have the course design in number 2, bullet 1, 2, 3, okay, that you are actually in charge of in preparing for the materials. And then we have, a PTJ committee to assess on those materials and the exam questions. And then we have from the student's point of view to see whether it worked or not, okay? So in a way, we are trying to look at, kind of like a full circle thing in terms of the course assessment. All right. So generally, from the data that we have looked at, most people, in fact, almost everybody gets 4 points and above. Okay? And how we had worked this out is that you will get 8 points per unit scale. So most people will already get the points that they need. All right? Not lastly. The next point is ODL, remote learning, micro-credential, elite EduM, and international partners. Okay, so this part is not something that everybody will be involved in. There will be another town hall session next week where I will be talking about ODL, remote learning, micro-credential. Okay, so I'll be talking about that in greater detail at that time. But basically, what we are doing here is for those people who actually had put in the effort to offer a course on ODL, to offer the courses through remote learning, and to work towards micro-credential and elite EduM. You all know what elite EduM is, right? Where we would like to get the industrial practitioners come into your class to offer, an hour of lecture, 2 hours of lecture according to the schedule. And lastly, and this was something that we had already implemented last year, where we have our international partner come into our class through online, and they offer 1 or 2 lectures within the course that you are already offering. So if you do any of this, okay, say, for example, you have 1 remote learning course, then you have 10 points there. If you have another on participating in the elite EduM program, then you get another 10 points there. So it's kind of like how you might want to organize yourselves in order to be able to gather all these points that we have set for teaching and learning. So the last one is on supervision. Some of you, not many, but some of you actually have a dual PhD program under your belt. So you are co-supervising with an international partner, a dual PhD candidate. So if you have that ongoing this year, you will get 40 points, okay? If you are supervising not a dual PhD candidate, just our own, PhD candidate, you get 25 points, all right? And if you have a master by research candidate, you get 12.5 points. So those would be the equivalents. So basically, in short, I think some of you might have already tried this out using the Excel. These are the points given for these various different areas. And it is really up to you to work it out and balance things out so that you will be able to get the 40% for teaching and learning. Some of you actually have way beyond, number of PhD candidates than others. So you will get more points there. And then if you don't have, 12 credits, then it will make up for it. If you have, for example, you don't have an ODL class, you don't have any micro-credential, so you will not gather any points there. But you can gather points from any one of the other categories. Okay? So I'm actually done. So if you have any questions, please leave it to the end when we open up for Q&A after Prof. Nosada is done. Yeah, so now I'm going to pass things on to Prof. Nosada.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good afternoon, colleagues and friends. Thank you for coming to the Zoom. Thank you, Prof. Kamila, and thank you for being here. Some of our friends down here. So I'm just going to actually go into teaching and learning. Sorry, that's teaching and learning. Research, and also services and academic work. Okay. So. Can we get the slide? Or okay, here. Sorry, that's me. Okay, so we are looking at when we talk about research, we're looking both at output and input. Okay, so in terms of output, the measurable way or one of the way that we're looking at it is through the publications that we actually generate from our research outcome. And for social science and arts and humanities versus science and technology, usually they are not, equal, because expected publications for social science versus for science are not really equal. So we actually separate out the requirement or the target that we have set for science and technology-based industry faculties versus social science and arts and humanities, based faculties. This time around, what we want to look at, because we have been, it's been more than 10 years that what we are looking at was only numbers, and we did not really seriously consider the quality of it. So we thought this time around, actually, we should move. In fact, we should have moved into quality a while back. Okay, so we're looking at Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 in the WOS. Publication now more than we actually, look at just a number of publication in, WOS. And we're also looking at, putting in, the contributions of the different, authors or different, contributors within the publication. So the publication would be, looking at a corresponding author with certain points, and then the different authors with different points. The reason corresponding authors get more points is because they are solely responsible for the paper. So should there be any question, should there be any problems, question from editors, in terms of integrity, etc., they are the one responsible, and they have to be answerable to this. So that's why they carry more points. Okay, and when we talk about our authors here, we only mean the staff. So it does not include the student, it does not include the postdoc, it's just the staff. Okay, so you can see the points that you get, and I think you can play around with it as well, because we have given you the Excel files. And for the arts and humanities, because you do not really have tiering in your Arts and Humanities Citation Index that is equivalent to the WOS for science and technology as well as social science. This is equated to Q1 of the social science publication in terms of your points. Okay. So I'll go to the next one. Okay, that is looking at just the WOS and Scopus Index publication. And just for side information, I'm happy to see this because I had meeting this morning with all the Timbalan Dekan of Penyelidikan, and everybody is moving towards WOS. So I'm quite happy to see that, you know, faculties are also actually seriously looking at the quality of the work that is being carried out at faculties. We also, include ESCI and My Sites. Okay, ESCIs are, journals waiting to be actually cited, indexed by WOS. It may not be cited, but it could be. Most times it would be, indexed in WS. And My Sites are actually journals, Malaysian journals that are actually databased at the Kementerian. So for Malaysian journals that are not actually Scopus or WOS index, if they are My Site, they carry marks. So, because not all of the Malaysian journals, especially journal, for example, Scopus or WOS index yet. So they can be placed in the database of My Site, and this could count into your publication. And the reason we accept this is because My Site, when they actually want to put your journals into the database, they actually do some due diligence, and subsequently most of these will go into either Scopus or WOS. Creative art and creative work. Okay, this is to help to actually take into consideration the work that is being carried out by our friends in the Faculty of Creative Arts, as well as other related faculties. Okay, because they don't necessarily, publish, because their work maybe do not require that much of a publication nature, but they do contribute in other ways that currently is not counted. So the contribution that is not counted, now we are hoping to count and actually give some points to that. Okay, and index conferences and proceedings also previously it was very low. But having said that, there's not many conferences proceedings currently that is being indexed, because in a lot of conferences now, people tend to actually get the publication in the journals, and I think conferences also tend to do that nowadays. So, I think, more points are given to that, because, it doesn't actually carry much weight in terms of conference proceeding anymore. Okay, we also look at other publication, other types of publication, books. A lot of our book, especially our social science and arts and humanities, okay, tend to actually write books. So, and we know that writing books are not easy. So, we actually tend to give quite a high weightage for this. It actually should equal to the number of publication that you actually publish in Q1, Q2. Actually, we try to make it as close as possible in terms of the points that you get. Okay, so these are the different types of book. We have international original writing, ataupun sometimes you see in the Myra glossary as buku penyelidikan or research books. So these are the outcome from your research that you actually now put into books, and they are published by international publisher. Okay, but there will be a list of international publisher that we accept, because there are some publisher we do not recognize. Okay, and not only we do not recognize, but even internationally peers do not really recognize them. We give you some example in the glossary. We follow Myra glossary. Okay, for this, so publication, international publication like in the Lambert, we do not actually accept. We have to be very mindful of predatory publishers at this point. Okay, so original writing in a local book, original writing by local publishers, we at the moment only accept MAPIM, because this is what the Kementerian actually recognize. Okay, MAPIM publishers. There are about 21 publishers, okay, in MAPIM, and I think almost all the university press, in fact, all of the university press are in MAPIM. So you can actually publish in this. Similarly, we look at chapters in international books, as well as chapters published in the local books by, published by MAPIM. We look also at edited books, as well as both local and international, and translation. This is not very easy, the academic book translation, so we actually also now give points. And the other thing that we have not given points before is perhaps text and reference book, but not for school. Okay, we want our researchers to write good textbooks that is being used globally, like we know what we use, okay, that is used by the universities, professors as well as students, over the years, okay? So this would also be something that is very important that we feel to show your scholarly effort, okay? Patents, patents granted, file, either IPR, garis panduan, technical, they are also given points, as well as lain-lain penerbitan, okay? So, for example, patents is very clear. IPR is also very clear, I think, your copyright, your industrial design. Garis panduan, some of you sit on, committee, and you are actually contributing in writing technical reports for the industry or for the agency or for the ministry. For example, some of you sit in CIRIM. We know quite a number of you actually sit in CIRIM, standards committee, and you actually write technical report for them. And currently the point is very, very low. And some faculties do not count that at all. So now we actually put some points in there because that is a contribution to the nation. So you get about 20 points for that, for example. Lain-lain penerbitan, okay, these are other publication that you write, such as those in the papers. We want you to write academic writings in the newspaper for the lay person, okay, so that we are actually disseminating and giving knowledge to the lay person on our topics or our expertise. For example, now when we are talking about vaccine and COVID vaccine, so we have many, experts out there who actually understand what it is and actually write in the paper, in a column, to actually explain what it is about so that public can better understand this. Okay, kertas policy, it is not something that is very easy to do, but we have many who actually does this. It is actually more common for the social science and arts and humanities than for the scientists, because scientists tend to write their experimental work more. So, we actually try to give, points to this because we know also that you are also producing something in terms of kertas policy. How do we count kertas policy? Because this has been questions that come to me. How do you count that? It's not like what we do, Myra. Myra said, only is accepted. We just need to actually have an evidence that you are actually involved in this and show the kertas policy that you have actually drafted and submitted. That's all. We do not need to wait for it to be accepted by the ministry and used, or and gazetted by the cabinet, for example. No, because that's not within our purview or within our control. Our control is to actually make it happen by drafting and submitting it. Okay? Okay, so these are some of the notes. These notes are not comprehensive, but yet we will put them in a proper glossary that be easier for you to actually follow through subsequently. Okay, so the other part of research is actually looking at input in terms of the grants that you get. Okay, so we look at the different grants, the different role that you play. You are either a PI, principal investigator, that means you are the main player of that project, or you are co-researchers. Okay. And we only look at, the national grant, international grant, and industry grants PI, okay? So if you are a PI of a project within the university at the moment, that we don't actually carry, that actually doesn't carry much point, mainly because we wanted you to be competitive. So these are, being PI of national grant, international grant, or industries are actually very competitive. You have to go out and fight with many people, whereas in the university, you may not necessarily have to fight with as many. Co-researchers as well, okay? So when we talk about PI of national grant, we meant it's outside, like FRGS, Science Fund, TORE, for example, not the RU grants, that is being disseminated by the university. However, the amount that you get from the universities, let's say you have a project that is IRRG, for example, just to give an example, the amount that you get is actually counted in terms of amount of internal grant, okay? So the amount of internal grant means the RU grant that you actually get within the university. The amount of external grant is all the external grants that you get outside the university, okay? So this may include FRGS, Science Fund, EU Fund, the Newton Engkau Omar Fund, or whatever funds that you get from the outside. So that counts for certain points, okay, depending on the quantum that you get. For some of those, researchers who get in-kind grant from industry, because sometimes industry do not give you cash, they give you something in kind, especially I know in science and in engineering, they give you a car, you need to do some work on the car, and they do not give you money, but they give you a car for you to work on. So that in kind, we can actually count. Okay, so these are industry grants. Some industry, for example, say, I'm not going to give you any money, but I'm going to pay for your RA, which means we do not have to pay for our RA because they're paying. So those amount that they use, that they actually pay the RA, we can count as in kind from the industry. Okay? Okay. Now, when we talk about PI here again, just go back up there. It counts for an active, ongoing project that we have. Okay, so that means we are not expecting for you to actually apply grant every year because sometimes it doesn't make sense. We understand that because suddenly you get a grant of 2 million this year, next year you will not be applying anymore because you got to work on that $2 million grant. Okay, so so it is an ongoing PI that we count. So this year you count that as, let's say, 2 million from industry. So you get this year for 2 million from industry, you are the PI. Next year you also get the PI for the industry. Okay, so it's ongoing until your project finish. Okay. Okay, so I now go to the academic work and services. Okay, those are the research. Academic work and services, this unfortunately carries only about 10%, but that's it's a bit limited because I know a lot of you do things a lot in this area, but you can score 10% very easily here, I presume. Okay. Now, the first item on the list is appointed, elected committee coordinator of task force and executive. So many ask what this means. Okay. In terms of MIRA, this is called stewardship. That means you are the head. In MIRA, they only count you as the head, the president, the leader, the chief, the whatever of the task force or of an association. But here we actually look at executives. So you may be elected as the secretary of an association, a learned association, okay? Or you may be a secretary of being a chemist, I would say IKM. So, that is counted. You don't have to be a president, because president only have maybe one position. So, any part that you are actually leading, okay, or, an executive member, okay, that counts for, certain points, okay. It can be a learned association. You can be the president of the Academy of Sciences. You can be the leader of the task force heading the blueprint initiative, for example. So anything there counts. Okay, the second part is appointed, elected committee, committee or task force member. So, for example, the VC appoints you to be a member of, OSH in the university. So that carries, point. You're not leading, but you are part of the committee member. Okay, so, these are where you are appointed or elected. Okay. Now, evaluation and reviewing activities. Okay, this involve things that you do academically. For example, you help the faculty to review one FRGS application. Okay. This is actually per amount, per number. So if you actually do 2 evaluations, then you get 20 points for the faculty, for example. Okay, so you help the university actually look at FRGS application and evaluate them, okay? So those are the type of things. You are an internal examiner for a faculty's PhD thesis, okay? So that actually carries points. Because currently I do not know how much, I don't think it carries that much point. And also sometimes it gets buried, okay? So, you know, that carries point. And sometimes you are asked to review article by WOS or Scopus. I know many of you, because of your expertise, you are asked to review many articles. Okay, we would like to encourage this because by reviewing articles, you actually read maybe the latest, latest in your field. So the points may not be a lot, but because we know that you do it, okay, we know that you do it, then you actually can accumulate for every single review that you do, although we need evidence for this, okay? So next is prestigious award, are the awards that is given to you that is quite prestigious. Everybody will understand this. We hope one day we'll get a Nobel Prize winner, but as of now, maybe a Merdeka Award winner, Mahathir Award, so those type of prestigious awards that you actually give. In the university, the Achum Award, I think is prestigious because it's not easy for you to get Achum Award. So, that's why it is given points there. Exhibition Award, we do know that our members go for exhibition, and some of you actually do get, apart from medals, get special awards. Okay, most innovative award, for example. So at an exhibition, so those are also not given points. Myra do not really give much points there, but we want to, as much as possible, follow Myra here. So. For exhibition, perhaps what we are looking at currently is just gold medals. For those with silver and bronze, perhaps they will not be given points for this particular one. And of course, when we go to exhibition, we would like our exhibitors to actually win gold. So plenary and keynotes at conferences, we feel that for plenary and keynotes, you are actually now recognized, or else you'll not be invited to be giving keynote or plenary. And when people go to conferences, they also look at who the plenary and keynotes are. That's why they want to go to conference, because they want to listen to these, big experts who are be talking within the field. So we give you some points there. But if you actually go to conferences, for presentation, oral or poster, okay, we also give points, because we would like for you to continue going to conferences, because this is where you learn new things and you also network. The reason there is no national points for conferences here actually is because I think all conferences now tend to be international, even if it's local. Okay, so even if it's organized from Malaysia, it is still international most times. Okay, so other academic work or consultancies, okay, it depends on, some of the work that you do, you actually become a consultant, now actually it's not counted much, because we assume that you get rewarded, okay, by getting consultancy fee. But this time around, okay, you get your consultancy fee, but we also give you some points, for example, or other academic work, such as being a mentor to a younger staff. And most importantly is, we know that some of you do a lot of academic work, such as being a penyelaras, which actually is not counted. Okay, penyelaras jadual waktu, for example. Okay, penyelaras hubungan industri. Okay, because faculty actually requires your help in all this, but so far it's not actually, counted much. So we actually put that in your academic work. Okay, there are also some people who actually do penyelaras national level, okay, to help, certain areas, but it's not actually seen. Okay, in terms of professional recognition, it actually is a recognition given either by your learned society, or some kind of professional recognition. I did not put the details here, but examples can be from the Academy of Sciences, or the Royal or the Engineering Board, or the Accountancy Board. Okay, whatever fellowship that you get, you can actually put in, and actually the dean and the head of department actually would know, how to assess this and actually give you points to this. So we leave that a lot to the head, similar to other academic work, for example, in consultancy. All these actually, the faculties can decide, and the dean and the head has, the authority to actually sit and discuss with you. As mentioned earlier by Prof. Kamila, a lot of these are actually a little bit more flexible to allow you to actually decide, where you want to do and how you want to gather the points. And you need to really discuss with the head and the deans who would be able to assist you in actually looking at, how to actually get your points where you think that you are going to, do for that year's target, for example. Okay, so I am done here, and I guess we go to question and answers, right, Prof. Kamila? Because I'm only doing research and academic work and services. So we'll go to question and answers, I suppose. Thank you. Sorry, there's also been question on clinicians, for clinicians and DS45. Clinicians currently, we are working with them. So, we will discuss with them because they are not different breed, but they are special breed that we need to look into their, the requirements that they actually have to achieve. And DS45 as well, we will discuss because we need to actually understand exactly where the DS45, because we cannot generically give them, points. So they will come back. We will come back to you on this one. Thank you.
Okay, since it's taking a bit of time, so I'm just going to come on. I think you probably have a lot more questions for Prof. Nusada, but so that's why I'm holding the mic now. So, so I imagine there's a bigger portion on research, and the teaching and learning part is pretty straightforward. That's, it's how many classes do you teach, and the kind of load that you have. Just more importantly, what we would like to get across is that the pointer system is supposed to be flexible for each individual to be able to decide what they might want to focus on for that particular year. For example, if you have a lot of grants this year, you are already on an ongoing project. I mentioned this already just now. You might actually want to negotiate with your dean and your head of department to provide more percentage in that area. So it's kind of dynamic in that way. Yeah, Prof. Nusada actually mentioned the clinical and DS45. We will be getting back to you on that, because we will be meeting with you separately for that category, those categories, Do we have any questions?
Prof. Kamila?
Yes?
Ismail, Faculty of Science.
Prof. Ismail, Faculty of Science.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Sila.
Online.
Sila, Prof. Ismail.
Okay, basically about teaching and supervision, you mentioned that the minimum of 9 credits per year, isn't it?
Yes.
So how do you get that 9 credits per year? How is your calculation, the basis for 9 credits per year?
9 credits per year, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So kalau kita kira dari segi kredit, satu kredit tu, Prof. Ismail. Okay. Yeah, I thought you were asleep, so I had to call on you. So if you consider one credit tu adalah 1 jam kuliah. Okay, 1 jam kuliah is 1 credit. Tapi kita tahu ramai di antara kita juga mengendalikan tutorial. Jadi kalau ada 2 jam tutorial, itu dikira equivalent to 1 credit. And then some of you have labs or studio work. If there are 3 hours of lab ataupun 3 hours of studio work per week, that is equivalent to 1 credit. Okay? So
My question of why 9 credits?
why 9 credits? Because we also looked at what is currently the average across campus. Okay? One of the things that we discovered when we look, if I may elaborate, one of the things that we discovered is that some people are teaching only 2 credits. Some people are teaching only 3 credits. Yeah, and this puts the faculty at a very difficult. This puts the faculty and the deans at a very difficult spot, because then they will have to look for part-timers nak mengajar. And then at the same time, some people, it's supposedly in the research track, but at the same time, because of the faculty needs, dia tak mengajar 3 jam kredit tu. Dia mengajar lebih. Dia mengajar sampai 9, sampai 12, some people. Okay? So, if we use the pointer system, then at least it is fairer. That's how I see it lah. That's how we are looking at it. And when you look at the 9 credits too in terms of courses, kan? It is equivalent to like about 3 courses per academic session. That's what we're looking at. And that's pretty low because that's minimum. You might need your staff to teach more than 3 courses, so that's open to you. That's why we put it at a minimum. Okay?
Is there any discount reduction for the staff yang buat management?
Yang buat apa?
Management, take management yang dean, deputy dean, head of department.
Oh yes. That bukanlah discount kan? It's not. It's part of your job. So basically, I believe some time ago, maybe not so recently, some time ago, Human Resource had sent out what is the proportion for deans and what is the proportion of people who are holding the various different levels of management roles. So ada yang dikira sampai, faculty work is 30% and the management work is 70%. Yeah, okay. So 25%, 75% for ketua PTJ. So automatically dia akan kira macam tu lah. The other thing that we didn't mention earlier, all this, mostly will be systematized. It will be automated. So bila kita key in tu dah memang dah sedia ada dah. So no worries about that. Okay?
Okay. Ada soalan lagi?
Thank you, Prof. Ismail.
Assalamualaikum, Prof.
Waalaikumsalam.
Anwar here. Anwar, Fakulti Alam Bina, Prof.
Okay, Prof. Anwar. Another dekan.
Okay.
I don't know whether we're going to get to Dr. Chan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prof,
Okay, Prof.
Actually, so far our calculation is based on contact hours. This is the first time that the university imposed the minimum teaching is based on credit. Okay, because you understand it's based on the 3 credit, for example, for one course. Ada yang for example in Fakulti Alam Bina we have to teach actually 2 hours and then 1 hours of the tutorial.
Ya. Teruskan, ada lagi? Prof? I don't know whether Prof Anwar is still online. So if...
Mute, okay. Prof,
Yeah.
why not we just maintain with the contact hours rather than credit? Easy for us to actually to manage the those for, even though we still have the tracking or we don't have the tracking, it doesn't matter. Okay, but it's normally we used to calculate based on the contact hours, not the credit.
Faham. Ya, Prof Anwar, kita masih boleh, you can still use the contact hours, tapi you can convert it according to how we had explained it out. It is kita boleh convert lah, because kalau kita nak kira macam seperti mana yang kita buat dulu-dulu, sekarang ni kita ada student learning time, kita ada notional hours, jadi kita tak semestinya 3 credit hours tu kita ada 3 contact hours. Betul tak? Jadi it is the formula that we are providing, so you will be able to convert it. Okay? So if...
Okay.
All right.
Prof Kamila.
Yes.
This is Dr. Lau. Just further the questions about credits hours, I think Prof Chamuna can actually explain more about how the calculation is done in Faculty of Medicine. We don't own a course for individually, so we share a cost. So it's very hard for us to count credits hours.
Okay. Prof, we will have a different session for Faculty of Medicine. Yeah, we have.
But Prof, we are following the science track because we are non-clinician here.
Okay.
We have to follow science track, but we can.
All right. Yes, I do understand at the Faculty of Medicine, there's a lot of crisscrossing and the different sharing of the courses. Yeah. Okay.
Prof.
Yes.
I have 2 questions. One continued from the one about based on credit hours or based on contact hours, because it doesn't take into consideration the size of the classes, right? So even though a course may be 3 credit hour, if you teach 100 students or 50 students versus if you teach 2, the amount of marking you have to do, the amount of assessment, continuous assessment, the workload is actually, very different. So, that should be actually taken into account.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, we did actually talk about that as well. So there are some things that we really have to leave up to the faculty and the dean to work that out. Yeah? Okay. Moving on. How is it possible, Dr. Nikman Adli Nur Hashim, yeah? How is it possible that dual PhD carries more points than normal PhD? Well, there is a lot more. There is a lot more that goes into supervising dual PhD candidates than the normal, only candidate. Okay. And I think some people who have already gone through this might be able to attest to this. Because we're talking about 2 different sets of rules and regulations that the candidate as well as the supervisors have to be very, very aware of. Okay, because for example, if we have a partnership with University of Sydney, then we have to make sure that the candidate follows the rules and regulations of University of Sydney as well as University of Malaya. Okay, so those are some of the things that we have to take into consideration. Next question, is it fair to implement this KPI for this year? Wouldn't it be better to pilot test this year and start implementation gradually, maybe next year or the following year? Yeah, Cik Kamal Sohaimi, Fadil. Thank you for that question. Well, some of the items that we are going through as what we had presented to you today, some of those things actually are, things that we are already carrying out anyway. Okay? So it's not as if it's really vast, flip side what we are doing. Yeah? We are just incorporating the pointer system. Some of the things that we are carrying out actually almost exactly similar as what we have been doing, what we are doing, and what we should be doing. Okay? Okay. I think it's time for me to pass this on to Prof. Nusada.
Question from Dr. Nazrizul Adib. How does the system promote cooperation among researchers when KPI is just celebrating lesser number of authors? Okay, actually what we wanted to do, we do not want to actually stop cooperation. We think that, if it is genuine cooperation, then, this points doesn't really, affect many. The reason that we actually do this, not lesser number of authors, you can actually go to 10 authors, for example, it's just lesser points. But we have been noticing a decline in the number of papers, unfortunately. So, for the individuals, your KPI is met. When we did the analysis, a lot of people actually meet their KPI, but faculties and the university do not actually meet the KPI or the target set. For example, each the university's target is on average 3 publications per staff per year. Okay. Unfortunately, each individual actually meet that 3 publication, but the faculty do not meet. Okay, because of co-authorship, too many co-authorships, and so we do not want to stop cooperation. In fact, we are encouraged, but we would like to actually have proper, genuine collaboration, and with this, we'll be able to understand, what is the intricacy behind this, so that we can actually look at, university getting meeting the target that was set for us by, the ministry, for example. Thank you. Okay, from Dr. Wan Kadri, one scopper CA is 5 marks versus 1 marks for ESCI. Okay, ESCI is listed in Web of Science, which is harder to get accepted compared to scoppers. I would need your kind help to clarify this. Okay, yes, ESCI is slightly harder because it is waiting to be indexed in WOS, but it may not necessarily be indexed. That is why the marks is lower, because Scopus definitely is already an index process. That means the journal that is actually indexed by Scopus has gone through some kind of, verification, evaluation, etc., etc. Whereas ESCI, has not really gone through that. They are in the process of going. Once it goes into WOS, then it will become, will carry marks. But there are not very many, actually. We checked with Clarivet. Not very many actually do make it, within 1 or 2 years. So it takes longer, and it's not guaranteed that it will be listed or indexed by WOS. Next. Okay. PI for internal grants are not given point. The workload is equally heavy. From Prof. Jamuna, actually it is not as PI, but your internal grant is given. The amount of grant that you get is given. Okay, because the PI is actually, something that we want for you to actually go out and compete, nationally rather than internally. But the amount of grant that you get, we will count that as points. Why do we not recognize value in grant? There is an assumption that there isn't competitive or work, but it still work, Sohalmi. We're not saying that we do not recognize. We recognize, as we say, we give you amount for the internal grants, okay, that you get. For each, 100,000 actually, there will be 1 point, right? 200,000, 1 point. Yeah. So it's not, it's not that we do not recognize the value after all the grants we give, but, because the competition is only internally, okay, we would like to actually give points for outside. And the money actually also is not much. We do not know how long this can be sustained. Maybe this year is the last year we get RU, and next year there will not be any more internal grants. So, we would like for people to actually try to actually achieve external funding. Yes.
I have a question, two questions. One is the arts and social science lab, right? Typically the amount of grant is much less, compared to the science and technology. You buy an equipment, it can be millions or, hundreds of thousands. So the point system in a sense, structurally, disfavor us in the arts and social sciences. That would be the first question. The second question pertain to the scopus. Compared to last time, the scopus is actually given much lesser value in the arts and social science, right? But in terms of publication, for arts and social sciences, especially in the humanities, scopus is actually much more prevalent. And also, as you know, in some of the, even if it's ISI, it's not even tiered. So the system is actually very different. So why are we being evaluated, more or less the same, even though it has, even though it's not the same?
Okay, for the amount of grant, okay, we'll look into, we'll get back to you on that one, okay? Because, the amount of grants actually is the money that you bring in. And actually, to be honest, when we look across the board, there is not really much difference for the amount that is being brought in by the social scientists or the arts and humanities versus the science. I mean, if you go to FRGS, you see, there's not much. The only difference is in the internal grant. So that's why we're not, actually giving, we're not actually putting, too much on this. But actually, it across the board is the same. We have, people from social science who receive EU funds of about 300,000, whereas in science they only receive 50,000. So it's comparable, but we do give extra points for PI, for the social science and arts and humanities, because we know it is much more difficult to be PI for social science and humanities for those type of grants. So but the amount we receive actually not really much difference. Okay, in terms of scopus, given lower points, I'm not sure, because I think the WOS, the arts and even the arts and social science social science and arts and humanities, actually you do get WOS, type indexed. For the arts and humanities, it's AHCSI, okay, AHCI index, okay, which is not tiered, so we actually equate that to tier 1. Social scientists, I'm proud to say this, actually, our social scientists, I'm really proud to say this. In fact, our social scientists, econs and business actually have been publishing in WOS, and other universities come to us, and I always say very proudly that we have our people working and publishing in WOS, and we see the same trend now going even into the law faculty, which of course is something that we're very proud of, and telling all the other universities that our lawyers are also publishing in WOS. So, I think, what we wanted is to encourage people to publish in, higher quality. Of course, more prevalent for the arts and humanities currently is Scopus. It's just that we are a bit wary of Scopus index. If you're publishing in the tier 1 and tier 2 index, then I think, we're not so worried, because most times, in the tier 1, tier 2, they're also either in AHCI or they're even in WOS. But especially in tier 4, we are a bit worried, because we have now come into, we discovered that some of this and we check with Scopus, some of these are discontinued or predatory. And actually when Scopus discontinue it because, it's predatory, the information trickled down to the researchers late. So it becomes totally unfair for the researchers because when they publish suddenly next year, they are not listed and it's not counted because it's already discontinued. So, that's why we would like to try and have our researchers publish in a better quality journal so that, their work will not be lost. So hopefully, we can look into something to help them push higher. And I know, talking to the deputy deans this morning on research, everybody is actually pushing towards the higher quality. So I'm happy to hear this, and I'm sure you can work very well with your deans and deputy dean of research in order to strategize on how you can actually publish in a better quality journal that is indexed. Salam, Prof. This is from Dr. Adila Shamsu. Salam, Prof. We are talking about professional programs, academic giving back to society, how government, government, how about what we do with the government as a lot of time is spent. Okay, we did mention that under services. Okay, so if you are an academic in a committee, so you actually get points there. And you can also put in other academic work, of the other things that you actually do, in terms of, how you actually contribute or how you actually work, what kind of work you do for the government in the services. Okay? Dr. Chan, finally. Dr. Chan Yok Fan, you have a question. Finally, yes, we get to you. Hi.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so I
Dr. Chan, you're breaking up.
Mini, and first question is, okay, my first question is, have this KPI been simulated? Because when I actually tried using my current KPI to put in, I failed to achieve my 80% KPI. Okay. So I was just wondering, the minimum KPI that is currently in place, when we actually put it in, how do you actually get those marks, for each of the category? Has it been simulated, and is it an average marks of everyone? If it's not, then I think, the marks needs to be adjusted accordingly, because I personally have done it using my own KPI, and I put in anything that is minimal, and I did not achieve my KPI. So that's question one. And my question two is, as I understand, KPT has given us, under the blueprint of 2015 to 2025, we are supposed to be actually leveraging on the multi-track system. So with this particular KPI, what happened to our multi-track system? So if you want to excel in, just research and do less teaching, it doesn't seem to be possible in the current system.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Chan. Actually, we did do some simulation. Okay, I actually personally pulled out some, output, okay, from some researchers. But I have to admit that I actually did not look at those from medical faculty yet, okay, in terms of simulation. But we actually have done some simulation, and unfortunately, the ones that we do tend to meet the KPI. But we will look into this, Dr. Chan, and get back to you, and do further simulation, to cover as many faculties as possible. Okay, because in the time that I had, we actually managed to simulate quite a few. Actually, not true that I did not simulate faculty of medicine, because we had some members that actually look at simulation, and they say they meet. So that's why, we find it okay. They are actually medical based, but maybe we did not cover the the sample wide enough. Now, how does this address the blueprint of different tracks? Okay. It can still address it because, okay, First and foremost, we have, previously we had research track. I mean, I'm not going to talk about clinical and professional because that's aside. Okay, we had a research track, standard track, and teaching track. Standard track is actually to take care of, people who actually do what they are doing, under normal circumstances, although it doesn't really make much sense, okay? So now, and being a research university, we want to look at research track. Most of us should be towards research track. Teaching track usually, in a lot of, previous international university, particularly, where they are research university, only about 2 or 3% of the researcher, of the staff are actually of teaching track. However, under this system, okay, although we did not define the tracks, okay, you actually can actually define it by the percentage that you actually want to do that year, okay, in terms of whether you are going to actually focus yourself towards more research because this year you have a $2 million grant that needs to be needs attention for, or or this year you do not have a grant, but you need to actually do something, so you're actually going to boost up your teaching portfolio, for example. So it gives a little bit more flexibility to enable you to actually do things that you are able to do within that year. Okay, I hope that answers the question. Next, hi, Prof. Jenny. Prof. Jenny, yes.
Very much for the presentations, both Prof. Camilla and Prof. Nosada. And I have a question that is a bit more specialized for centers like SEBA, where we don't actually offer any undergraduate programs. So for our academic staff, they have not been able to find enough teaching to fulfill 9 credits per year. Not because they do not want to teach, but because we don't have teaching to assign to them. So they are actually helping other faculties, but they haven't been able to pick up enough teaching. So will there be some further flexibility for these types of special cases? I'm sure this sort of thing applies to other people in other categories for their special cases. How will we go about if we consider ourselves a special case? Or is there some method to find teaching for our staff? Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Jenny. I'll let Prof. Camilla answer that.
Thank you, Prof. Jenny. I was hoping someone would ask that question. Well, basically, Prof. Sada had mentioned that we are a research university. That's why we had allocated more, a higher percentage to research. But at the same time, you can see from the flexibility of how you might want to fashion the points that you get just within the same category, you will be able to work out so that you can still achieve the 40%. Now, having said that, we did say that there's a minimum of 9 credits for teaching, and I was hoping that this might be able to open up more opportunities for people to be offering their courses as an open elective. So you don't have to be dependent on any one existing course. You may actually start offering your course that may not necessarily be open to any just one faculty, but you might be opening it up to the whole university. Okay? So I would imagine in the student holistic empowerment program, the SHE program, SEBA might be able to offer more courses under the global issues and sustainability, because when we talk about sustainability, we are talking about the environment, we're talking about the people, we're talking about various different areas of that can come under on the one point global issues and the other sustainability. So basically that's what we might want to look at, offering more electives, more open electives that would be offered to all students of the university as well as in the SHE program. Okay.
Thank you. Would we be given a bit of time for that? Because actually, as you're aware, we are waiting for our master's program.
Well, offering the elective courses, yes, you can actually put in the pro forma and start offering it for the next academic session. Okay. Right. We have another question from, I'm not sure. Can you ask the question? You're on screen now.
Hello, Professor. My name is Dr. Katharina from Faculty of Dentistry.
Okay, Faculty of Dentistry. Right.
Yes.
So you would fall under the clinical track, would you? Yes. So we will have, I mean, I'm sorry to jumpstart, but then we will have a different session for the clinicians, yeah?
I see. So today is actually not for the clinicians, yeah?
Not yet.
Okay, then thank you so much for the clarification.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else coming up? So we're waiting for more questions. Yes.
Hi, Prof. Kamila.
Hi. This is not Prof. Ibrahim, is it? Who's speaking?
Assalamualaikum,
Prof. Ibrahim?
Ya, jika saya boleh bertanya soalan.
Sila.
Terima kasih. Nombor satu, adakah universiti telah melihat kesan KPI ini kepada dua kategori staf UM? Yang pertama is staf yang bekerja dalam bidang fundamental science. Yang kedua, staf yang masih lagi under contract. Di mana saya dapati untuk mereka mencapai sekurang-kurangnya 80% KPI adalah sangat sukar. Terutamanya adalah staf-staf baru iaitu yang masih kontrak. Itu nombor satu. Nombor dua, adakah akan ada KPI khusus untuk fakulti yang fokusnya lebih kepada teaching rather than research. Yang ketiga, adakah KPI ini adalah final, tidak akan ada perubahan? Dan kalau boleh, ini memang banyak dalam ruang chat, boleh tak kita mulakan ini pada tahun hadapan, bukan tahun ini? Right, jadi itu 3 soalan daripada saya, Prof. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Prof. Ibrahim. Seperti mana yang Prof. Sadar had mentioned earlier, kita akan lihat KPI untuk kategori DS45 ya. DS45 adalah kategori staf yang mungkin ada di PASUM, mungkin ada di Fakulti Bahasa dan mungkin juga di API. So that category of staff together with the clinicians pun kita akan ada perbincangan yang berasingan. Ya? Yeah? Bagi soalan Prof. Ibrahim tadi tentang contract staff, saya tak begitu, I didn't quite catch it.
Okay,
maybe untuk yang
sorry Prof. Ibrahim, maybe your contract staff, your question is how to actually determine the KPI because maybe their contract is just 1 year. Tapi what we're looking at now is a longer term contract. I think Pendaftar is looking into this. They will not be a 1 year contract lagi. It will be a longer term. So hopefully, but we will look into this matter once Pendaftar actually has come up with, longer term punya hopefully soon lah, insyaAllah. Pendaftar ada kat sini, dia angguk-angguk.
Tapi at the same time, Prof. Ibrahim, apabila kita lihat staff on contract, ya, kalau it depends on at which point of the year dia masuk, and when in the meetings that I chair, okay, I will be looking at the KPI and then we'll be looking at bila dia masuk, and then sebab kalau dia punya KPI itu rendah, kita akan lihat dari segi kategori yang mana yang dia rendah, and then we will be able to justify sebab apa dia rendah. Yeah, because we don't expect that person to come in the first year itself and then straight away get 100% in their KPI. So, that, quite reasonable people.
Okay, question, even if you manage to secure a large amount, are the marks only for KPI of the year that the grant is awarded, Dr. Fatiha? The marks, yes, but I just have to tell you that if you, one is, it can cover, for maybe, you know, over the grant tu is maybe for the amount that masuk. For example, if I manage to get 2 million, so I'll get the amount, I mean the KPI for that marks for 2 million. The ones that are over and above the cap mark tu, actually is not lost because this will go into your SAPT. Okay, so you know, for kenaikan pangkat, etc., it's not just KPI. So all these marks will go and into your bank for SAPT. In addition, okay, maybe this will also make it easier for the faculty to look at these marks and use it for other purposes, such as, you know, to nominate for ACUM, for example. You know, because you see, wow, this person is doing very well, you know, it exceeds the amount of KPI for that year, by, tenfold. So, you know, this is a person that we should nominate for our ACUM for this year, for example. So, you know, the marks are not just going to be lost at the end of the year, it will be banked into somewhere, especially into KPT and also for faculty to use. Prof. Azlan Shah, who determined the field for staff with respect to SNT or SS? Is it based on faculty or based on field of research? Okay, this question is, difficult to answer for some faculties. Okay, for some faculties, because almost all faculty is clear-cut, but for maybe Alam Bina, for Pusat Sukan, okay, and even maybe education at some point. Okay, these are a bit difficult. So at the moment, kalau we go by Myra, okay, we are going to actually use you for, according to, the faculty base. But for this one, okay, we'll get back to you. I think we need to discuss with the deans further on, to determine the field of the staff. But, we'll get back to you on this one. From Prof. Nias Asadullah, this is from Econs, I believe. Some of us write for international media representing UM in global academic, okay, World Economic Forum. How does this new system recognize this? Okay, as it is at the moment, you can actually put this on other publication. Okay, it is there for other publication at the moment. So this would be counted there. Previously, it's not counted anywhere for this. Yeah. So next on the Prof. Zamri, pharmacology. Yes. Okay.
Sorry. I need more clarification from Prof. Camilla. This is still about the credit hours for teaching, because still confused about this. Because you mentioned just now is 1 credit hours, 1 hour for 1 credit actually, but in the table it's mentioned 1 hour per week for 14 weeks consider 1 credit. That means we require 14 hours to be equivalent to 1 credit, and you mentioned minimum is 9 credit. This is so confusing to some of us actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me rework that and get back to you, Prof. Because as it is, what we are looking at is an average of 3 courses that is worth 3 credits for the whole academic session. In terms of how the contact is actually going to play out, that's something that we have to put more clearly lah, I suppose, if that is not clear. Yeah.
So one more question. I think, of course, we all got a lot of questions. I think maybe cannot be answered within this today's meeting. Yeah. So is there any platform for all academic staff to actually voice out or send a written message or everything before it can be implemented?
Okay, the plan is, I should have said this at the beginning, the plan is we have this time period that we will be answering your questions through this town hall. Tapi mana-mana questions yang diajui, kita akan collect. There's quite a number. You don't see the people here actually in DTC. Actually, there's quite a number of people working here who are collecting the questions that we are not able to answer on the spot right now based on time. So we will be answering all your questions eventually by email, yeah? Yes, somebody on Zoom? You have to unmute. We cannot hear you.
Oh, sorry. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Hear myself. Yeah, actually, Prof. Camila, I have many questions, but just to make it short, just now you mentioned that the percentage is actually flexible, right? So the 50%, 40%, and 10%, is that fixed or we can still pay around?
That's the default. That's the default. So that is going to be flexible, but you have to go through your dean, because the dean actually has, the faculty KPI. So they will have to be able to assess whether it's possible for you to increase or decrease, and to what level. Yeah, because the guiding principle is that you would not want to increase research right up to 80%, because that will leave very little for teaching and supervision and and other matters. So there will be a cap based on the faculty needs. So that's something that you can discuss with your dean.
Another question is, if sharing students, sharing PhD or master student, are these considered full marks, or you still go by percentage?
Full marks.
Full marks. So
Full
there's
marks.
no
Yeah. Kalau share kursus, then that is split. But if you share student for supervision, it's full marks. Okay. Someone else coming up on Zoom, perhaps? Dr. Adib? Dr. Adib, you're on?
Yes, Prof. Thank you. Actually, banyak soalan saya dekat YouTube tu. Nanti saya harap somebody can list down apa yang kami tanya dan jawab dari situ lah. Cumanya kalau di kesempatan ni, I would like to ask about the community engagement tadi. Where is it being evaluated at? Yeah?
Okay. That might be for Prof. Nusada, but it's actually at services, yeah? It will be at services. Prof. Sada might want to.
Okay, it's okay. Thank you, Prof. Adib. Actually, I know a lot of you do community engagement work. It is actually at services, other academic work. You can put it there.
Baik, saya tengah try letak ni. Just doing 2 works is equivalent to point. Okay. Understood.
2 times, yeah. So this, the one that we give you actually is the Excel form, just actually for you to be able to play around and then get some feel, and also maybe give us some feedback maybe. But the real system, Prof. Aziz actually is developing it at the moment, and hopefully it will be done by May. Yeah? Prof. Aziz is also here. It will be done by May, and it will be as fully automated as possible. So it will not be a burden for you to fill in. Like unfortunately, sometimes we have to, at this moment, everything is manual. I mean, upload manually, but Prof. Aziz is trying hard to do this, and the Excel form is something that will give a lot of feedback to Prof. Aziz in terms of how the system can be appropriately formatted. Yeah. We have a question from Dr. Wendy Yee. Okay, for research we have SNT or SS category. What about multidisciplinary categories? Since we are now promoting multidisciplinary research, how would the weightage be for multidisciplinary research? Okay, I understand that we are actually encouraging multidisciplinary, tapi what we are looking at is, whether you are from SNT faculties or SS or Arts and Humanities faculty. Although your paper is maybe multidisciplinary, which actually is very, very good, you actually would be based on, your faculties, where you are at the faculty at the moment. So for multidisciplinary research, publication, would be based on your where your hakiki is. Okay. From Zaira Chowdhury, accepted book chapters for the year will be counted in KPI or publish one. Publish of books chapter takes time. Okay, we can only count it once. Okay, we can only count it once. Okay, so if you use the accepted book for your KPI that year, you cannot use it next year. Okay, so we will leave it up to you whether you want to put it there or put it the following year when it's properly published, but only once. Okay, this is for Prof. Kamila.
Okay, the question is ODL stroke elite, etc. How are the points calculated? From the Excel indicated 40 points max given by the committee. So what makes up the minimum 40 points? At the moment, each item will be worth 10 points. So if you have basically if you have you're conducting one class through remote, that's 10 points, and then you have another one that you're a part of the elite program, you have in an industrial practitioner come into your class, that's another 10 points, and so on. If you have more than 40 points, this will just work towards the points, because that's the beauty of the point system. If you reach the 40 points, well and good, because that will add on to you getting, hopefully 100% for your KPI for the year. But we're not putting aside the extra points that you are getting, all right, accumulatively, because this will work towards perhaps, like Prof. Sada mentioned just now, Achum, as well as APC, and what we will be working on after this is the SAPT. So the points eventually, at the moment, we are looking at it as potentially working towards your SAPT. Okay? All right. I'm getting a signal to say that it is the end of the session. All right. So basically, it had been a very active, Q&A session. Really appreciate it. On behalf of the management, Prof. Nusada being here with me, we thank you very, very much for all your questions and this interactive session. And we thank you for spending the time. This is very good feedback for us as well. And don't worry about your questions. The Secretariat is collecting all your questions, and we will get to you. We will get back to you eventually. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum. Very good evening. Have a good day.